Hello and welcome back to our channel. Do you know there is a man like us who is known to own the whole of the United States? Do you know who he is? Why is he called that? No? Stay tuned for all the answers. John Pierpont Morgan, sometimes referred to as J.P. Morgan, was a powerful and wealthy individual. He was a banker, industrialist, and financier who made a substantial contribution to the development of the American economy in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. His legacy is still having an effect on the financial world today, and his name has come to stand for the concentration of power and riches in the hands of only a few. The estimated value of J.P. Morgan's fortune at the time of his death was roughly $80 million. That would be around $2.3 billion in 2022, while other people believe that his riches at the height of his fame may have been as high as $60 billion. This is the life story of J.P. Morgan, the man that owned America. Early life. There was little question Morgan's destiny lay in banking when he was born on April 17, 1837, in Hartford, Connecticut. George Peabody, another American, ran the bank where his father, Junius Spencer Morgan, was a partner. Morgan was raised with the expectation that he would succeed his father and travel between the United States and Britain to sell American bonds to London-based clients. At this time in history, the majority of these bonds were state and federal offers and had a significantly larger risk than government bonds from European countries. After retiring, George Peabody totally turned over control of the bank to Junius and had his name removed. The first Morgan Bank, J.S. Morgan and Company, opened its doors in 1864. At this point, J.P. Morgan had completed his studies in Europe and was working as his father's representative in New York, while his father handled the more crucial London portion of the company. Amelia Memmi Sturgis and Morgan got married in her house in October 1861. Mimi was already gravely ill with TB when they were married, so ill that for a brief private ceremony and then to the carriage that would take them to the dock, Morgan had to carry her. She passed away in Nice in February 1862, 4 months and 10 days after their marriage. On May 31, 1865, Morgan wed Frances Louisa Fanny Tracy. They had 4 kids together, moving on. After the Drexel-Morgan merger, Morgan started to assume his father's duties. The Drexel-Morgan merger broadened the company's reach, improved relations with other countries, and increased the amount of cash the bank could lend. Morgan had a larger role in the underwriting of firms for initial public offerings, while his father went into the background. He showed a significant deal of interest in the railroad, holding shares, managing offers, providing funding, and even appointing Morgan's staff members to the company's boards of directors. Morgan chose a good time to increase the riches of his bank and his own influence as the railroad's significance spread throughout the continent. Road to accomplishments. Firstly, Morgan, Wall Street, and the U.S. government were growing more concerned about the nation's status as a debtor nation at the beginning of the 20th century. Wall Street firmly believed that before the United States could emerge from the hole, a stable currency was required. Morgan was the one dispatched by Wall Street to the White House to meet with the president. This made the American people believe Morgan was the head of Wall Street and provided them a target for their dissatisfaction over the introduction of the gold standard, which they saw as the end of farming in a country that was still predominantly agricultural. Among the robber barons, he was the king of robbers. Secondly, 2 ideas were held in common by Morgan, Cornelius Vanderbilt, John D. Rockefeller, and the other robber barons. Cutthroat rivalry was destructive, and scale and combination could lessen competition while boosting efficiency. Morgan encouraged the creation of trusts and mergers inside businesses where he perceived disastrous competition using his own influence and name. Many of the other significant businesses Morgan helped establish were advantageous to the economy, despite the fact that he will always be recognized for seeking to establish a steel monopoly in the shape of U.S. Steel. The United States advanced technologically thanks to General Electric and International Harvester, now Navistar International, which also benefited the agriculture industry. Through his rail trusts, Morgan was frequently accused of strangling. Compared to the actual riches he held, Morgan had a significantly higher perceived authority. The Morgan Bank just lacked the scale necessary to manage bond issuance or underwrite IPOs without assistance from the expanding financial industry. However, because of Morgan's notoriety, whenever his bank joined a syndicate, it was stated that Morgan was directly in charge of the offering. In an era when the reputation of the issuing bank mattered more than the stock fundamentals, Morgan benefited from his rising prominence. This solidified the public's view of Morgan as the face of Wall Street as a whole. Morgan was accused of stifling the economy during tough times. It was believed that Morgan was stuffing his pockets while times were good. But Morgan paid a heavy public price for his personal dominance. Panic of 1907. At the start of the 1900s, Morgan was almost equally despised and admired. But in 1907, he revealed his plan and gave the people and the government something to be afraid of. The New York Stock Exchange started to decline on March 25, 1907, as a result of an unprecedented wave of panic selling. Although this strange occurrence quickly went away, it let the financial community know something wasn't quite right with the exchange. While the abnormalities grew over the summer and into the fall, Morgan was 70 years old, semi-retired, and on vacation. By October 1907, it was obvious that a crisis was developing. Morgan left for New York on October 19th in an effort to stop the impending financial collapse. Morgan gathered everyone involved in the American economy using his extensive network. Even the U.S. Treasury contributed $25 million to Morgan's initiatives to boost liquidity and maintain market stability. No till closed as a result of Morgan's office sending messengers to exchanges and banks, but the rate at which money could be removed from the system was delayed. Religious leaders were urged to preach serenity in their sermons. Business executives and bankers were all trapped in Morgan's library, and money counters were told to double count slowly. Morgan was able to compel everyone to accept a plan in the closed chamber. In essence, they would generate money to support the financial system, just like the federal government now does in similar situations. The panic faded once the president gave his consent to this proposal. The government acted swiftly to restructure the banking sector and strengthen the Federal Reserve System to prevent similar crises in the future, after realizing that the only thing standing between the United States and financial calamity was an aged banker. Pujo Committee and demise. Morgan's greatest achievement was during the Panic of 1907. He got his normal share of criticism with a lot of praises in the aftermath. The general public's perception of him as the robber king of Wall Street only got worse due to his blatant economic manipulation, and he was invited before the Pujo Committee, a government inquiry of money trusts, rather than being left to his retirement. Morgan's statement gave voice to a banker's code that was unheard of at the time. He repeated, among other things, the old-world ideas that morality and character should be a banker's guiding principles. Whether or not this was a good concept, it soon became apparent that a gentleman's agreement amongst the major Wall Street banks was in control of a significant portion of the country's credit. After hearings, Morgan's health started to deteriorate. But with his decline, Wall Street's era of baronial domination, or gentleman's business as his critics put it, came to an end. On March 31, 1913, while visiting another country, Morgan passed away peacefully in the Grand Hotel Plaza in Rome, Italy. His remains were returned to the United States on the passenger ship SS France, operated by French Line. When his remains traveled through New York City, flags on Wall Street flew at half-staff, and the stock market was closed for 2 hours, an honor generally reserved for heads of state. And thus, he came to be known as the owner of the USA. And that's it for today's video. I hope you find it mind-blowing. Do give it a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel down below. Tap on the bell icon so you never miss any upload. And I'll see you next time.